I knew the message that I was delivering was a historic message. And I knew the venue was like really strange. This isn't like walking into the Oval Office to tell the president something. No, I'm in front of second graders and the camera's watching me and I can't really have a conversation with them. I'm Andy Card, Andrew H. Card Jr. I was Chief of Staff to President George W. Bush. On September 11th, 2001, I'm the one who whispered in his ear and told him about the attack on America. I remember every minute of that day.
Better than any other in my entire life. I was right here when the World Trade Towers collapsed in 2001. I was a senior in college, working a job here at Fenway Park. We didn't know which American landmark or which American city would be next. It was a day of incredible emotion, fear, panic, anger, with images seared into your memory. In talking with the former president's chief of staff, I learned we had very different days that September 20 years ago, but we shared many of the same anxieties and traumas. We both remembered how incredibly beautiful that September morning was. We both remember who told us the news of a small prop plane crashing into the first tower just after 8:46 a.m. And we remembered how vulnerable everyone around us felt immediately after realizing it wasn't a prop plane and it wasn't an accident. It was a morning that changed everything.
When I went in to see the president, I told him it's going to be an easy day. You're meeting with second graders, it's your favorite topic, leaving no kid behind in education. And I'm standing at the door to the classroom with the president and the principal of the school. And a Navy captain by the name of Deb Lauer, who was the acting national security advisor on the trip. She says to the president, "Sir, it appears a small twin-engine prop plane crashed into one of the towers at the World Trade Center in New York City." The president, the principal, and I all had the same reaction. "Oh, what a horrible accident. The pilot must have had a heart attack or something." And it was actually verbalized. And then the principal opened the door to the classroom, and she and the president walked into the classroom. I'm standing there, and Captain Lauer comes up to me and says, "Sir, it appears it was not a small twin-engine prop plane, it was a commercial jetliner."
I heard a boom, looked up, and there was a big ball of fire. I'm now looking north at the World Trade Center, and it is the left twin tower. I'm looking north.
Same minute that you walk into that school classroom, Flight 175 goes into the second tower.
Oh, another one just hit. Something else just hit. A very large plane just flew directly over my building, and there's been another collision.
Captain Lauer came up to me and said, "Oh my God, another plane hit the other tower." I knew it couldn't have been a coincidence. I knew it wasn't an accident.
Yes, mate, give yourselves a pat on the back.
Yeah. The whisper was 2 minutes after that, 9:05.
Yep, and I knew he was sitting in front of a press pool and second graders, so I didn't want to have a dialogue with him. So I decided I'd pass on two facts, make one editorial comment, do nothing to invite a question, and I opened the door and walked in. I whispered into his right ear, "A second plane hit the second tower. America is under attack." And that was all I said to him. And then I stood back from him about 3 steps because I didn't really want him to turn around and talk to me.
That's a frozen in time moment in history.
It is a frozen in time moment, and I honestly believe that's the day that he really became president. And then I said, "Get Mark Tillman, the captain of Air Force One, get the crew back on Air Force One. We're going to have to get out of here." We weren't planning to leave for several more hours.
32 minutes later, 9:37.
That's when President and I are in the limousine to Air Force One. He was frustrated because he's calling Secretary Rumsfeld at the Pentagon and he can't get through. He says, "I can't believe I can't get through to the Secretary of Defense." I mean, he's saying, "How come I can't get through to the Secretary of Defense?" And that's when I find out on my phone call, it looks like it's just been hit.
Flight 77 crashes into the Pentagon.
This country, the strongest country in the world, has been the target of a major coordinated terrorist attack, and the end is not over yet.
9:45 a.m., all U.S. airspace shut down. 10 minutes after that, 9:55 a.m.,
you guys take off from Sarasota.
We started rolling even before they shut the door to Air Force One. Could Air Force One be a target where somebody is sitting at the end of the runway with a Stinger missile? And yes, that was a concern. The president wasn't in his seat, I wasn't in my seat, and the plane was already rolling down the runway. And we're just barely in our seats with the seat belts on when we lift off. And we didn't go off like this. No, we went kind of straight up. We went right up to 48,000 feet, which is pretty high. And we're flying in a zigzag pattern, waiting for fighter jets to catch up to us.
I think every American was feeling the same thing, which was chaos, uncertainty, and fear. What about you?
A lot of the people on Air Force One were very emotional. I wanted to be the opposite of that. Make sure emotions don't make decisions. The president and I actually had a shouting match with me where I did not shout at him. He wanted to go back to Washington, D.C., and he is literally yelling at me. I am the president of the United States, we're going back to Washington, D.C. And I'd say very calmly, I said, I know you do, but I don't think you want to make that decision right now.
While that was happening in the air,
And we just saw a live picture of what seemed to be a portion of the building falling away.
Oh, no! Oh, God! Oh, my God! You could see the TV on the plane, and nobody's talking.
4 minutes after that is when Flight 93 goes down in Pennsylvania.
Officials at Somerset County Airport are confirming the crash of a large plane just north of the airport. That's about 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh.
10:28 a.m., the North Tower collapses.
Yep. When you saw people jumping out of the towers, haunting, still haunts me to this day, to see the towers burning before they've collapsed and seeing people jump out of the windows. That was haunting on 9/11. It haunts me today. It truly was surreal.
I had a classmate on one of the planes, Lisa Frost. I didn't know her that well, but our exchanges in class were always pleasant. I have thought countless of times about what it must have been like to be on that flight. And vulnerable is always the word that comes to mind. 9/11 was such a memorable day because those attacks made us all feel vulnerable. We didn't know who was next. Foreign terrorism was on our doorstep, and the fear we all shared that day was the exact purpose of the attacks, to make us feel like nothing was safe anymore.
The Seattle Space Needle was shut down. Walt Disney World was evacuated. All national monuments have been evacuated today as well.
After a few hours, I took a break from the TV and walked home. I was the only one on these city streets. The nation was still locked down. The towers were still smoldering. And the president still hadn't returned to Washington, spending his entire day flying from one undisclosed location to another.
You're coming into land in Washington, D.C., and the people on Air Force One are nervous. Is there a Stinger missile sitting out there? The fighter jets come up to us right beside us so that they can intercept whatever may be shot at us. The pilots were so close to us, we could see their faces in the planes. And then we're looking out the window and you can see smoke billowing from the Pentagon. And the president turns to me and said, "That's the face of war in the 21st century." And then he addresses the American people at like 8:30.
Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
I get home, I'm guessing 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. I felt very blessed. We live in a great country. We live in a great country. And I watched people do their job that day. They checked their emotions at the door. Now, they caught up with them later on, the same day they would catch up with me. I know some very prominent leaders who still suffer from, I say PTSD, because they tried so hard to help, and the burden was much greater than anybody had anticipated. Your story doesn't have to be my story. It doesn't have to fit perfectly. You know, my story is how I saw things and how I remember things. You saw things and remember things maybe they're differently. It's okay. Don't be afraid to talk about it. Don't keep it inside. Let it out. September 11th, 2001, the world changed that day. Never forget what happened.
Hey everyone, Noah Pransky here. Thanks for checking out the NBCLX YouTube channel. For more videos, click here. And don't forget to click subscribe to join the NBCLX community.